Hi, welcome to my first pandemic video. And so I've described what clay is. It's earth, it's geology. And now I'm going to show you for our first project, which is a pass-fail project, how to get the clay ready and then give you a few directions, but not a lot. So the first assignment, which I will write out as well, is that you can make whatever you want. You can make funny things, you can make meaningful things, you can try to do serious art, you can do crazy, funny, stupid little things, you can make hearts and crosses and boyfriends' names, whatever you want, just you can make it. So the only direction well, first of all, let me show you how to prepare the clay. When the clay comes out of the bag from the company, I'm going to use some old clay here. Your bags will look like this. At first they'll look nice and rectangular and all that. But when you take it out, you want to wedge the clay. That's usually the first thing that we do with clay. And you want to get sort of proficient at it, but don't spend a long time on it. You'll end up drying your clay out. Wedging the clay does a number of things. So you can take the clay, you can use your wire tool to cut it out of the bag, whatever. Then I always take my bag and after I'm done, I close it up. Okay? Because otherwise it will dry out. So the first thing I want to do is get the clay as workable as possible. The way I do that is wedging. Wedging does four things. Wedging gets the clay moving all in the same direction, the molecules. You'll see it's sort of like kneading bread. It also gets air out of the clay, because air pockets, clay shrinks as it dries and as it fires. Air does not shrink, so it can cause cracks or even explosions. So I want to get the air out of the clay. If there's wet and dry kind of clay, like you put some in that you've worked on and you're recycling it, and it's a little bit drier than the clay in the bag, you want to wedge it together so it's all homogeneous. It's more workable that way. And then lastly, it sort of makes the clay a little bit firmer because it compacts it a little bit. Okay? But anyway, so let me show you how to wedge clay. There's a couple different ways of doing it. You can think of it like wedging or like kneading bread, where you've ever seen them knead bread that go way out and come back like this. And what they're actually doing is they're trying to get air into the dough. I want to get air out of the clay, so I'm not going to go quite as far out like that and fold it over on itself. What I'm going to do is I'm going to keep my hands on the ends so that they don't, so the clay doesn't squirt out into a big coil. I want to keep it contained. So I go like this. If you have a bad back, you can brace your elbows in here and just rock into it. It's not rocket science here. So I go like this, and this will get the air out of it. And I'll do it maybe 10, depending on the clay. If it's like really big discrepancy between the fresh clay and the older clay, I'll probably do it 30 times. If it isn't, I've even wedged 100 times. But if it's just fresh out of the bag, just a few times is fine. Anyway, so I'll do this for a little bit, and it'll end up looking a little bit like a diaper. So what I do then is I just go like this, bang on it, on the high points kind of, so it gets into a nice workable size. Okay? So that's one way of wedging. Another way of wedging is called American twist. And it's actually a Japanese technique, so go figure. But anyway, what you do in that one is you go down just like you did before, and then you bring it up a quarter of a turn onto the high point. Down, quarter of a turn, up in the high point. So I'm not going all that far out. This really, because it gets on this high point, it really compresses the clay. As you can see, the clay starts swirling and going the same direction. This makes it really workable. Okay? And then, so you end up with a shape looks like a little bit like a thing that landed on the moon. Again, I'm banging on the high points, just getting it so sort of workable. That's how you wedge. Now, in terms of making whatever you want, clay is malleable. You can pinch it, you can bang it on things, you can, get whatever shape you want just because it's malleable. So, you do that. The only technique I'm going to show you is that if you want to join clay together, one thing you need to know. So right now, here's a piece of clay, I want to join it here. That sticks, but as soon as it dries out, it's going to fall off. So I need to do something to make it so it doesn't fall off. When it's wet clay on wet clay that I'm joining like this, I can just go like this and join it with my finger. So I either have to work it in, and I can use, you'll have your tools, you can make it so it's a really nice joint and work that in. You can do some shaping with the joint, however you want to do it. So you work it in. The other thing is called, and I'll use this phrase a lot, this technique is called scoring and slipping. And basically what you're going to do is make a paste out of the clay itself. So the way you do it is you rough it up. Sorry, I'm cross-hatching. I can even put some water in there before I start roughing it up. I have a needle tool right here, and I can go right in here. That's your best thing, is a needle tool. You can use a plastic fork or a metal fork. It gives you 4 times the scoring power. So you can see I'm really roughing it up. And I have water in there, so I'm making a paste. That's called slip. That paste is called slip, made from the clay itself. It's all gooey. If I really want to be solid about it, I could score and slip the other side. So score, make a paste, and then I go in here, stick it together, and then I can clean that joint up. That'll be great. That'll last you very well. So either work it in or score and slip. Now scoring and slipping is essential if the clay, when it starts to set up, it gets cheese hard. It will actually, when it gets bone dry, it'll get really hard, although very brittle. But if it gets sort of leather hard or cheese hard, which means it's sort of holding its shape, and that's really good because you want it to hold its shape, then if you want to join them on, you have to score and slip. Whenever you're doing leather hard or cheese hard clay on leather hard, cheese hard clay, gotta score and slip. You can't just work it in. Working it in only works wet clay on wet clay. The only other thing I'm going to tell you is that, let's say if I want to make, some people like to make piggy banks, or they want to make, or just an animal or something, and you'll build solid. Now you can go ahead and build solid. Let's say, let's call that a pig, or something, or it's a person with no legs. How's that? I want you to do a better job than that. But anyway, a solid clay like this, it takes about a month per inch for the water to get out of the clay. Now the reason why that's important to know is that if water is stuck inside of here during a firing, this will explode because the steam expands. And it'll act like a hand grenade in the kiln and take out all the work around it as well as explode itself. So you need to either you can build solid, and then you can hollow it out with something, maybe this ribbon tool. You can get in here and hollow it out so nothing's thicker than an inch, say. Or you can go in and either with a fettling knife and drill holes every ½ inch, just drilling holes, or you can poke a full of holes like this. But it has to go up pretty high, actually. Again, you don't want anything further than an inch away from the surface, so that water, steam can get out. So either hollowing out or poking it full of holes where you can't see, like in the bottom, that can let the water come out. If you don't care about firing this, a lot of these things aren't going to get fired because of the nature of this semester. Don't worry about it, just leave it solid. So anyway, you can make whatever you want, as I mentioned. It's a pass-fail assignment. If you do it, you pass. If you don't do it, you don't pass. So it's pretty making it nice and low pressure for this first assignment. If you do a knockout job, I will give it a pass plus, which means I'll knock another grade up in the semester or half a grade. If you just spent like 5 minutes on it, I'll give you a pass minus, and I'll knock another grade down. So that's the only other thing. I'd like you to spend spend some time on it. Make it look well done, even if it's just a funny, kitschy piece. Okay, thank you. See you in the next demo.